If you're an older guy and you're interested in a younger woman, there's one question you need to ask yourself. How do you attract her without making the mistakes most men make? Because the truth is, a lot of older guys unknowingly do things that push her away. Or worse, make her feel uncomfortable. But some men do the exact opposite. They say and do a few very specific things. And suddenly the dynamic changes. Her interest grows. Her curiosity builds. And before long, she's the one chasing them. So what actually makes a younger woman feel drawn to an older man? And why do some men naturally trigger that attraction, while others lose it without even realizing why? In this video, you're going to learn 5 powerful techniques that spark her interest and keep her coming back for more. 1. Certainty. Most men believe attraction comes from looks, money, or saying the perfect line. But when a younger woman spends time around an older man, the first thing she usually feels is something much deeper. Certainty. Not loud confidence. Not arrogance. Not a man trying to prove something. Just a calm, grounded certainty. A man who moves through the world like he already knows where he's going. Because the truth is simple. When a man doubts himself, people feel it immediately. You hear it in the way he asks questions. You see it in the way he hesitates. You feel it in the energy he brings into the room. He second guesses every step. Does she like me? Should I say this? Is this the right moment, or should I wait? And the moment that hesitation appears, attraction quietly starts to fade. Because uncertainty spreads. When you're unsure of yourself, she slowly becomes unsure of you. But certainty changes the entire atmosphere. A certain man doesn't constantly search for reassurance. He doesn't wait for perfect signals before acting. He doesn't look for permission to speak his mind. He decides and moves forward. When he asks her out, he doesn't say, "So, what do you want to do?" He says, "I know a great place. Let's go there Friday." Not controlling. Just clear. At first, she might pause for a moment. Not because she dislikes it. Because it feels unfamiliar. Most men around her hesitate. They ask what she wants. They wait for approval before making a move. So this quiet decisiveness catches her attention. She begins watching you a little more closely. Listening more carefully to what you say. Without thinking about it, she starts adjusting to the rhythm you create. Instead of trying to lead every step, she relaxes and lets the moment unfold. Her guard lowers slightly. Over time, something subtle begins to shift. She notices you're not chasing validation. You're not rushing to fill every silence. You're not changing yourself just to keep her interested. And that steady presence starts to create a quiet pull. Her messages come a little sooner. Her curiosity grows. She asks more questions about your life, your plans, the things you're working on. Not because you demanded attention, but because certainty has a quiet gravity. People naturally move closer to those who feel grounded. Especially in a world where most people are unsure of themselves. And when that calm certainty stays consistent over time, it slowly becomes something familiar. Something stable. And stability has a strange effect on people. They begin leaning toward it. Not out of pressure. But because it feels rare. Action. Build certainty in the parts of your life that truly matter. Make decisions with intention. Stop over-explaining yourself. Stop asking permission for things you already know you want. Have direction in your work. Have standards in your life. Have boundaries you respect. Because certainty can't be performed. It grows from clarity. Clarity about who you are. Clarity about what you want. And clarity about the man you're quietly becoming. And when that certainty becomes part of your presence, people start to feel it. Long before you say a single word. 2. Don't rush to impress. Many men make the same mistake the moment they meet a woman they like. They try too hard to show their approval. Compliments. Praise. Constant reassurance. You're amazing. You're so beautiful. You're different from other girls. At first, it sounds polite. But when approval comes too easily, it quietly loses its value. Because attention only feels meaningful when it is earned. When a man immediately gives admiration, he unknowingly places himself in a lower position. He begins trying to win her. And she can feel it. Instead of rushing to impress, a calmer approach begins with curiosity. Real curiosity. You listen when she speaks. You notice the small details in what she says. You ask questions that show you're actually paying attention. Not to flatter her, but to understand her. That difference may seem small, but people feel it instantly. Most men are waiting for their turn to speak. Most men are thinking about what clever thing they can say next. So when someone simply listens, calmly, without rushing to impress, it feels unusual. At first, she might not even notice why. She only senses something slightly different about the conversation. You're not trying to sell yourself. You're observing. And slowly, that changes the dynamic. Instead of feeling like she's being chased, she begins to feel evaluated. Not judged. Just seen. And something interesting tends to happen when that shift appears. Her tone becomes a little more engaged. She explains things more fully. She starts sharing more stories, more thoughts, more details about herself. Almost like she's filling the space with more of who she is. Not because you asked her to. Because curiosity invites people to open up. Over time, she notices something else. You're not reacting to everything she says with automatic praise. You acknowledge her ideas. You explore them. Sometimes you even question them lightly. That calm balance creates tension in a subtle way. Not conflict. Just interest. And that interest slowly draws her deeper into the interaction. Her attention lingers longer. Her energy becomes more invested. She begins paying closer attention to how you react, what you think, how you see the world. Because the approval she receives from most men is predictable. But when approval is quieter, and a little harder to earn, people tend to value it more. Not consciously. Just naturally. Over time, the dynamic shifts even further. She begins to wonder what you truly think of her. Whether you see something interesting in her. Whether she stands out in your eyes. And that curiosity quietly pulls her closer. Action. Slow down the urge to impress. Listen more carefully. Respond with thought instead of flattery. Let your attention be present rather than performative. Ask questions that show genuine interest. Allow pauses in conversation. And when you do give a compliment, let it come naturally. Not constantly. Because a man who does not rush to impress often leaves a stronger impression than the one who tries too hard. 3. Show insight into people. There is a quiet kind of maturity that reveals itself through perception. Not through loud opinions. Not through trying to sound intelligent. But through the ability to understand people. A man who observes carefully often speaks less. Yet when he does speak, his words feel precise. Because they come from attention. When you notice small details about someone's personality, the way they think, the way they react, and reflect it calmly back to them, something interesting happens. They feel seen. Not flattered. Seen. And being seen creates a different kind of connection. Most people move through conversations without truly being understood. So when someone suddenly describes a part of their personality accurately, it catches them off guard. At first, she might smile a little. Maybe she laughs it off. But inside, her attention sharpens. She begins wondering how you noticed that. How you understood something about her so quickly. And that curiosity quietly deepens the interaction. You might say something simple. You seem like someone who doesn't follow the crowd easily. Or, you strike me as the kind of person who goes after what she wants. Not dramatic statements. Just observations. But when those observations feel true, they land with weight. She pauses. Thinks about it. Then she often starts explaining herself. Why she is that way. Where that trait comes from. What she has experienced. And in that moment, the conversation becomes more personal. Not forced. Just naturally deeper. As this continues, she notices something else. You're not reacting blindly. You're reading situations. Understanding emotions. Recognizing patterns in people. That kind of perception often feels rare. especially to someone who spends most of her time around people who speak quickly, but observe very little. So she begins paying closer attention to you, listening more carefully when you speak, sometimes even testing your perception. She might ask what you think about certain situations, or how you see certain people, not because she needs advice, but because she's curious about how your mind works. Over time, that curiosity slowly grows into respect, because understanding people is a form of quiet authority. It shows experience. It shows awareness. It shows that you've lived long enough to see patterns others are still learning. And when someone feels understood by you, they often begin revealing more of themselves. Not because they were asked, but because they feel safe being seen. Action. Slow down your observation. Pay attention to tone, body language, the small details people reveal about themselves. Listen to what people say, and what they avoid saying. Then speak your observations simply, without exaggeration, without trying to impress. Just clear. Because when a man understands people, he rarely needs to chase connection. Connection tends to move toward him on its own. 4. Led from your own world. Many men make a quiet mistake when they meet someone they're attracted to. They slowly abandon their own life. They start adjusting everything. Her interests become their interests. Her schedule becomes their schedule. Her world becomes the center of everything. At first it feels harmless, even thoughtful. But something important disappears when a man does this. His gravity. Because attraction often grows around a man who already has a life in motion. A man with direction. A man with interests, skills, curiosity about the world. He doesn't hide these parts of himself. And he doesn't reshape them just to gain approval. Instead, he simply invites others into the world he's already building. Maybe he understands business. Maybe he studies markets. Maybe he follows world events. Maybe he spends time mastering a craft. Whatever it is, it belongs to his life before anyone else arrives. And when he shares these things, he doesn't lecture. He doesn't try to appear superior. He simply speaks about them naturally, like someone describing the landscape of his own world. At first, she may feel a little surprised by this, because many men she meets are trying to step into her world, trying to prove they belong there. So when a man calmly stands inside his own life, it feels different. She starts asking questions. Small ones at first. What got you interested in that? How did you learn that? And without realizing it, her attention begins moving toward the things that matter to you. Not because you pushed them, but because people are naturally curious about a life that feels solid. Over time, that curiosity grows. She listens more closely when you talk about your work, your ideas, the things you're building. She starts seeing you as someone who understands parts of the world she hasn't explored yet. And that sense of perspective quietly changes how she interacts with you. Her respect deepens. Her attention stays longer. Sometimes she begins sharing her own ambitions, her own uncertainties. Because when someone feels like they're standing next to a man who has direction, they often start revealing where they themselves are still searching. And slowly, the connection shifts. You're no longer just someone she talks to. You become someone whose life she finds interesting to step into. Not completely. Just a little. A dinner where you show her a place you like. A conversation where you explain something you understand well. Moments where she experiences a different perspective through you. Over time, those moments begin to accumulate. And the more consistent that sense of direction feels, the more natural it becomes for her to invest energy in the connection. Not because you tried to impress her, but because a man with a world of his own rarely needs to chase attention. Attention tends to move toward him. Action. Keep building your life. Develop interests that challenge you. Learn about the world beyond your daily routine. Grow in your career, your knowledge, your discipline. Then share those parts of your life naturally, without trying to prove anything. Because a man who stands firmly inside his own world often becomes the kind of man others quietly want to walk beside. 5. Master yourself. There is a kind of strength most people never notice at first. Not physical strength. Not dominance. Self-control. The ability to govern your own impulses. Your reactions. Your emotions. Your need for approval. Many men search for ways to gain power in relationships. They look for strategies, techniques, ways to gain the upper hand. But real influence often appears somewhere much simpler. Inside the man who is not easily controlled by his own desires. Because the person who cares less about the outcome naturally carries more balance. Not indifference. Just freedom from desperation. When a man constantly needs attention, people feel that pressure. When he needs reassurance, people feel that tension. And slowly, they begin to pull away. But when a man remains steady, something different begins to happen. At first, it might feel unusual to the people around him. Because most people react quickly. They reply instantly. They chase attention. They try to hold on to every opportunity. So when someone moves more calmly, it creates space. Space where others begin to reveal their own intentions. If she disappears for a few days and suddenly comes back, you don't rush to fill the silence. You respond naturally. Not distant. Not eager. Just composed. That composure often creates a quiet shift. She notices that your life didn't pause while she was gone. Your focus stayed on your work, your routine, your responsibilities. And that realization carries weight. Because people instinctively respect those who protect their priorities. Over time, another change begins to appear. She sees that you don't bend easily. You don't cancel important commitments just to please someone. You don't abandon your path for temporary attention. At first, this might surprise her. Because many men quickly rearrange their lives for approval. But when you stay consistent with your values, something inside her adjusts. Her behavior becomes more thoughtful. She plans more carefully. She becomes more aware of the time and attention you give. Not because you demanded it, but because stability quietly reshapes how people respond. Over time, that steadiness begins to build respect. And respect often becomes the foundation for deeper attraction. Because a man who governs himself appears difficult to control. And people naturally feel drawn to those who stand firmly within themselves. Not rebellious. Not stubborn. Just grounded. Action. Practice discipline in small moments. Delay reactions. Protect your priorities. Stay consistent with your commitments. Don't abandon your path just to keep someone's attention. Because the more control you develop over yourself, the more calm authority begins to appear in your presence. And when that calm authority becomes visible, people tend to approach you with more respect. Often without realizing why. A man who is certain. Who doesn't rush to impress. Who understands people. Who stands firmly in his own world. And who masters himself. Rarely needs to chase attention. Because quiet strength has a gravity of its own. And over time, people begin to feel it. Silent Stoic closing line. Power is not in controlling others. It is in mastering yourself so completely that the world begins to move differently around you. If you found this video helpful, subscribe to the Silent Stoic channel, so every day you become stronger and more peaceful. And tell me in the comments, which of these traits do you believe most men are missing today?